On the big screen?
Yes.
Bambi.
And in your house, do you remember it?
One of those Christmas films about Christ,
Okay.
or Moses, or one of the Bible films, yeah.
How do you feel about being part of one of the most important franchises of the movie industry of the 21st century?
I feel very lucky to be part of it. You don't think about that really when you're doing the movie. You're creating something, you're just telling a story and hoping that people will enjoy watching this film.
How was working with Peter Jackson?
Wonderful, yeah. He's a great director. He has a lot of passion and a lot of energy, and he's committed a lot of his life to this film. You know, it's been about a 15, 16-year career of his to bring Middle-earth to the movies.
Did you learn something specific from him?
Always just to deliver as much energy as he delivers himself. You know, he comes with an awful lot of passion and energy and enthusiasm, and you just have to match it. Maybe Ian would be able to talk his way out, even though he's a very good fighter. He's learned a lot of fight sequences in his time. Yeah, maybe Ian.
You have to explain what the movie is about without using these words.
There's a little person who meets a lot of slightly bigger people. They go on this journey through Middle-earth, yeah, I can say that. And they want to get back their mountain, that's okay, from this reptilian flying creature, which is very large. And the dragon Lee... Oh, no, I said dragon! Do I get another turn? I almost did it!
Yeah.
It's impossible, come on, it's hard.
Hi Luke, welcome to Mexico.
Thank
How are
you. Very good, I'm very happy to be here.
What is the meaning of the family for Bart?
Everything. Family is everything to Bard. When you meet him in the second movie, you see he has nothing. Just the clothes on his back and the kids to look after. These children that mean everything to him. He's lost his wife, so they're everything. He feeds them, looks after them, and tries to give them a future.
There are many paths to tread through shadow.
My favorite character it has to be Bilbo. I think his journey and that journey of self-discovery and doing something that no hobbits would do except him. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great journey. It's a wonderful experience. Watching this little creature do so many things. It's yeah, he's my favorite.
Do you prefer the Hobbit trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Oh, that's a difficult question, isn't it? Because I'm not in the first three, but I'm in the third three, and the first three were amazing, but the third three are part of my life, and it's a difficult one. I don't think I can answer that. I think maybe I have to watch them all together, 1 to 6, see how I feel at the end of it.
How does it feel to be a part of The Hobbit one last time?
One last time, hashtag one last time. Yeah, it's sad in a way, but it's very, I feel very lucky to have been part of it and to have been able to bring to life one of the only humans in the Tolkien story. So that was very lovely, and I feel very lucky that I get to travel with the film right now, and I get to meet people like you, and now I'm in Mexico, and I get to present this film which is loved by so many millions of people, and it's a real gift. I feel very, very lucky.
In this movie, Bart goes from bowman to dragon slayer and hero. I'm sure it was really fun and empowering. How did it feel for you, for your character?
It felt like that. Yeah, it really did. I mean, I was able to watch the transition of this man going from just a lowly bargeman to a dragon slayer to a leader of the human army. I mean, its journey is huge, and all the way through, he has this pure emotion, and he's driven by the want to protect his family. And the bigger picture is to protect the people, and he's a good man. He's an amazing man, and he's an unlikely hero, and they're the best kind of heroes, the ones that you don't expect to be the hero. He doesn't look for the accolade, he's not looking for he doesn't want anything, he just wants to look after his children, but he sees that he has to take that role, and he does it in a very humble way. It's a beautiful character.
Tell me about your favorite Bart scene and your favorite scene in general.
The one I love is the one in the third movie, the final installment, you know, when we see the beginning, the first sequence in the film is Bard on the rooftops of Lake Town, and that was actually the first scene I ever shot 3-4 years ago in New Zealand.
The Hobbit has a lot of young fans. What do you think that they can learn from a character like Bard?
Well, that you don't have to be a superhero to do heroic things. I think if anything, he's a good man. He has a very clear moral compass. Love is what drives him, love for his family and to protect them. And I think that's the best thing that he has to show to the audience, is that this is a man who, when push comes to shove, he will do something heroic. But he's a humble man and he's a good man.
What will you miss the most from your time spent in Middle-earth?
The people that I spent every day with, you know, from Peter to the cast and the crew, to the people that cooked my lunch, to my driver, to my hair and makeup artist, to the dressers, the people, you know, that I just saw every day that made my whole experience. Without them,
Like a family, right?
we were, yeah. I still keep in touch with many of them, and a year is a long time.
So we can say you lived this saga with friends for life.
Yeah, I think so.
Aside from that, what else did you keep?
As a memento, I have the sword that I used in the third movie. I was given that as Peter got Weta worked up to make the real version of the sword, which is beautiful. And I have some dwarvish coins, which I took from set one day. Don't tell anybody.
If you could go back to Middle-earth, which of those characters would you like to be and why?
I'd like to play Thorin. I'd like to have been Thorin. I think it would have been interesting to... It's a very challenging role, and I think Richard Armitage does such a fantastic job playing that tormented character who, you know, he's dealing with so many powerful emotions that are pulling him back and forth, and so it's a real challenging role. I think it would have been fun to play him.
You're now part of the Tolkien universe and film history. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's mad.
You're forever there.
Yeah, I think forever I will be stopped on the street and asked if I'm Bard the Bowman, which is fine by me. I'm very happy with that.
What is it like to be one of the most relevant characters in Tolkien's mythology?
Oh, that's a very nice thing to say, but I think that there's a lot of relevance in most of the characters. I mean, what's wonderful about his Tolkien's writing is that whether you're dealing with an elf or a wizard or a hobbit or a dwarf or whatever, they still are dealing with human emotions. So, and I think that's why it's the success that it is. The book is so successful and the films are so successful, is that you can relate to each and every one of those characters, and you can sort of identify with their journey or an experience. Maybe not the whole experience, but certain decisions they make or certain things they experience. And with Bard, I guess he really is probably the most identifiable character because he's a human. And I guess, you know, I'd hope the majority of the audience are human. That watched this film, so I felt a sense of responsibility to make his journey relatable and understandable to the audience. I wasn't inspired by anybody. I don't know many people who've killed a dragon or lived on a lake. So I just stripped all the things away and just looked at the man and the fact that he has no wife and he has 3 children and he has a Welsh accent and he's working class and he just sort of, he's quite a good guy. He's a very good guy, you know. His decisions, his moral compass is going the right way, is pointing the right way. He's a just man. He has a very pure emotional core.
How was filming this?
Well, there were moments when there was nothing there, and there was moments when I was working on one of the biggest set that they'd ever built for either The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, which was Lake Town, you know. So I got the best of both worlds. I experienced an all-encompassing set, and then sometimes I got to experience fighting a dragon that wasn't there. And when I shot that scene, he hadn't been designed. There was no drawings or art concepts of what he looked like or how he would sound or how big he was. So there were moments when you really had to draw on your imagination, and other times you didn't really need your imagination at all. You were actually living that moment.
So I read somewhere that you have like a collection of swords and stuff.
I do, yeah.
Which ones do you have?
I have the one I have in The Hobbit, obviously, which is the Girion sword, who's my ancestor. I have my Dracula sword, which was Vlad Tepes's sword, which is an amazing bronze dragon-hilted silver sword with the scabbard, which is beautiful, and the Armies sword from The Three Musketeers.
In this movie, we see Bard who becomes the leader of his people, something he didn't expect. So how does he manage this situation?
Well, he's a human. He just thinks like a human and reacts like a human who has responsibility to protect his loved ones, and he ends up doing almost superhuman things in the film. But that's an everyman who finds the courage and bravery inside of him. So it's an amazing journey, really.
This journey has come to an end, and as a part of the audience, it's like very sad and nostalgic when you watch the ending. How was it for you as part of the cast to finish filming this film? How was the ambience between the whole cast and crew?
Well, it was by the time we finished the movie, I'd been on the movie for about a year, so it was, you're very used to seeing those faces and the people that you're working with every day, so it's a very sad moment, really. It was a big achievement, but also I didn't really want to let Middle-earth go. I didn't want to leave New Zealand, and I didn't want to go home, really. I was very happy there. So.
Do you have any personal traits that you put into this character?
Yeah, I put some of myself into every role I play, but especially with Bard, because he's a human and he's got a lot of really good qualities about him. So I was sort of trying to bring a bit of myself to, if I was a father of 3 children and the dragon was coming to kill the town that I lived in, then maybe I would try and do something as brave as he did.
And you have a lot of battles in this movie, so which was the most demanding scene to?
It's the first scene of the third movie, the battle on the rooftops between my character Bard and the dragon. It was the first scene I shot when I was in New Zealand 4 years ago, and it was a very demanding, physically exhausting scene where I was on wires on the rooftop. So yeah, that one.
And in this movie, you battle a dragon. In Dracula Untold, you were Dracul, the son of the dragon. And you're from Wales, and the flag of Wales has a red dragon in it.
Very well researched.
What
well
is
done.
it with you and the dragons?
I have no idea. Well, that's 3 things. The things come in 3s, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that's me done.
Angeline is playing a superheroine next year in Ant-Man.
She's in what?
In Ant-Man.
Oh, is she? Oh, I didn't know that.
So, would you
Amazing.
like to play a superhero someday?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, Bard and Dracula are kind of like
Exactly.
superheroes.
Yeah, exactly. They're sort of superheroes already. Maybe I've done it. Maybe I've already done it. The IMAX screen is so immersive that you feel like you are actually in some of those scenes. Some films are born for the IMAX screen, and those scenes were just made for. I'm going to miss just being on set. I'm going to miss being with those great people. The crew and the team and Peter and the other actors.
Tell me a little bit about this last movie.
Oh, well, that's a big question. Without giving any spoilers away,
Yes,
I mean, that's the hardest bit. Well, all I can tell you is this is the closing chapter to an amazing trilogy, a story of a group of dwarves and hobbits and a wizard, and they've traveled through a huge land, and now they've reclaimed their mountain back. And the last image we see in the cliffhanger of the second film is the dragon finally descending from the lonely mountain towards Lake Town, and that's where my character Bud the Bowman lives. And at the moment you meet him, he's in a prison, and everybody is evacuating Lake Town because they can see what's about to happen. And the film is it has a pace that the other 2 movies have a very different energy about them, but this movie, it's the climatic end to such a massive saga, and that's without trying to give away any.
Do you have like a relative or a friend who's a really big fan of The Hobbit and was really excited when you got the part?
Yeah, I've got friends. That were like, they couldn't quite believe it. Yeah, it's amazing. I got to bring them to see the premiere in London, and that was nice to see their face. They probably were even more excited than I was, but it was nice to see.
Did you keep anything from the movie?
Yeah, I have the sword that I use in the final battle. Peter got Weta Workshop to design and make a real sword, the weighted in metal. It's an incredible piece of weaponry. And weirdly, it was designed and built, made by a friend of mine who worked at Weta Workshop. So it's doubly special, not just because it's something I use in the movie and it was given to me by Peter, but it was also made by a friend of mine who was an amazing sculptor and sword maker at the Weta Workshop in New Zealand.
And what did you do with it?
It's on my wall in London.
Without giving too much away, is there one scene that after you saw it all finished, you went like, oh, that's my favorite, I want to see that again?
I think it would probably be the opening sequence of the third movie, which my character is in, because it was the first thing that I ever shot 4 years ago when I first got to New Zealand. And so I've waited a long time to see it, but it's the sequence between Bard and the dragon over Lake Town, and it took 4 days to shoot, and it was incredibly physically demanding role, that character and also that moment. And also I was fighting a dragon that hadn't been designed or created. There was no voice, there was nothing for me to play off. I had to react to a polystyrene ball on a stick. So to see it in its final glory is a really beautiful thing.
But is it easier to get into character when you have these huge sets and everybody's dressed up? Is it easier?
Yeah, I guess it is in a way. I mean, everybody's dressed in some crazy outfit. Or I was very used to seeing the 13 dwarves dressed up as, you know, in their fat suits and their heads, and sometimes they had their heads taken off and their beards were on, you know. So yeah, I mean, I saw everybody in all their glory and sometimes not so much glory and more just ready for lunch.
The Spanglish, right? It's funny.
Spanglish.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. My name is Pau Orozco. I talk about books on YouTube. That's what I do for a living.
Okay.
Yeah.
You read a lot?
Yes, I study literature also. So, you know how everyone's saying the last film that is Mao, who just really stole the whole thing, and it was like, whoa, the dragon. For me, personally, it's your character. Like in this film, I watched, you know, the scenery, the CGI and everything, and the motion capture, and I was like, look so good in this. Like the acting and the character development, I really, really enjoy it. And this is a film that you did like 4 years ago.
I started it 4 years ago. Yeah. It is. It's the last chapter of all our characters. Everybody's getting their moment of closure, and some more sad, some more happy, and some with a bittersweet moment. But I love Bard's journey, you know, because it's huge. It goes from just being this bargeman to, you know, slaying a dragon to becoming the leader of the human army. I mean, it's a huge journey. And as much as he has much more than he does in the book, we still, you know, his landmark moments in the film are still from the book. It's just what goes on in between. You see a bit more of him now. And I think most people like it. I think they like what Bard has become. I think it's worked very well.
And it's amazing seeing like the adaptations from books, because it's like this is a whole different mind.
Completely.
I'm not really like, that wasn't like that in the book.
Good. Well, that's the right approach. That's the right attitude. I mean, some people are very loyal to the book, and that's absolutely fine, and I get that. But Peter wasn't out to upset anybody. I think what he wanted to do was just, you know, he has 3 films to really allow everybody's characters to be enjoyed by the audience. And my character especially was one of those characters that benefited massively from the third film from the 2 movies being made into the 3.
Yes. And I have a question. This is like, I'm very curious about this. I know you started acting like 11 years ago, right?
More than that. I was 21, so I'm 35, so 14 years ago.
You studied music.
I did.
You did all of that. And I'm very curious if you like see Broadway, if you see movie musicals, if you see music, like apart from that, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think, I don't think it will be too long before I'll be treading the boards again in a play or a musical, yeah. Yeah, it would be nice. It's been a while. It's been 7 years since I did my last film, so my last music theatre production. So it would be nice to. It's finding the right project, you know. That's the thing. It's not always very easy to find that. You have to read a lot, which you would understand. Hello, my name is Luke Evans. I play Bard the Bowman, and welcome to Las Parablas de Fa. And she'll see you in the comments, and they better be nice. Otherwise, I'm coming after you with my bow and arrow, okay?
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. I hope your headache goes away.
It's okay, it's go.
Bueno, y uno de los personajes más importantes del Hobbit, la batalla de los 5 ejércitos, es por supuesto Bardo el arquero. Y me encuentro con el actor que lo interpreta, que es Luke Evans. Hola Luke, un placer.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Very good, thanks.
Muy bien, hasta ahí llegamos. So you've been having quite a ride with your career and this character that just catapulted you to the world. How was it for you?
It was quite a catapult, actually. I mean, it came. I think I've been shooting films. I've been doing movies for about 3.5 years when I got the offer to play Bard the Bowman. So it was a huge moment, and Yeah, it changed a lot for me. Changed a lot in my career, my professional life.
Yeah.
And now it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
But it's been a big moment. and
It's
it
a big
was
farewell, but do you feel sad about saying goodbye to Bart?
Very much so. I mean, I said, you have to remember, I've stopped shooting this movie 2 years ago,
Yeah.
so I had my moment of having to say goodbye, 2 years ago. So it was, now it just feels like I'm opening up a wound and pouring salt into it.
Mexican salt.
Yes, Mexican salt. I needed tequila to go with that.
Yeah, I saw the movie last night. It was great, and I see your character Bart as like the hero of this story. What was your take of your character when you began, when they gave you the first script of this movie and the evolution that he had?
Well, it was difficult because there was 3 scripts, so you're moving through the storyline bit by bit. And, a lot of scenes were added as we went along, and storyline was expanded. And it's funny because because it's such a long process, I didn't join the film thinking, yes, I'm the hero. I joined thinking, yes, I'm a lowly bargeman, and I have a family of 3 children and no wife, and I enjoyed the process and the storyline as it came. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do in the end of the 3rd movie. So it's amazing to see how Bard's character's evolution of Bard throughout the movies happens, and it's an amazing journey, from a man who just carries barrels across a lake to becoming the leader of the human army, and in the middle of it slays a giant dragon. So it was a wonderful experience, and I feel very sad that I might not play a character like Bard again.
Yeah, probably Tolkien or the state of Tolkien can give rights to something else, or they can make up something else. Will you go back to it?
Well, you have to remember, Middle Earth is written over many hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And Bard is a human, so there's a very slight chance
Like
he would
in
be
2
alive.
years, this is what happened.
We'd have to go revisit him quite quickly because he's already in his 30s, so he hasn't got much long left.
I love the first sequences when you go and fight and have this big battle with Smog. How was it on the set? How was it for you and the training that you had to go through?
Well, it was actually the first scene I ever shot in
the whole process.
Yeah. I shot that scene 4 years ago. It was my first days on the set in New Zealand. So it's weird to actually wait 4 years to actually finally see the film. I see that moment. And when we shot it, there was no images of Smaug. There was no idea of how he looked, how big he was, nothing.
Wow.
So it all came from my imagination. And Peter sometimes, when we were doing those big dramatic moments, he would play very powerful, emotionally driven orchestral music that would help me, get into a place. And it worked very well.
Oh really? Yeah, it looks good. But were you very aware of the Lord of the Rings stories and the Hobbit stories before embarking on this movie?
Yes, very much.
Were you a fan of it?
It's been part of my life, part of my childhood, not childhood. I was a teenager, late teens, early 20s actually. I think when the first Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings came out. So it's been part of my cinema memories.
Really?
Yes. So it was a real treat and a gift to be able to join that legacy.
Of course.
3, 2, 1, action! And cut! Cutting! Cut!
There's something that everybody talks about Mr. Peter Jackson, that he always likes to do retakes and retakes because he wants the best, always the best. How is the process for the actor when the director asks you so many times to do one scene or the same scene over and over?
Well, the first couple of times it's difficult because he just loves takes.
Yeah.
He loves coverage, and then you sort of understand why he does it. And I think the reason he does it is so that he sometimes captures just a moment in one take, just one moment of something special that he wants to take, and he will mix that and merge it into something else. And you have to trust him. You just have to trust that this is his technique, this is the way he works, and after a while you just give in and just go, okay. Well,
but at the end you feel like, okay, yes, I nailed it this time. It's better than the first one.
Well, you don't know because you're not seeing it through his eyes.
No.
And that's the thing. You just have to give everything every time, as many times as you can. And sometimes he asks you, have you got another take in you? Especially if it's a big action shot, like
of course.
when we were shooting the dragon sequence. There was, the setup took hours, and so every take would take, you know, 3-4 minutes, and then they'd have to take an hour to reset, and lighting and flames and all of those things. So, you know, it was a lot of planning and a lot of trusting Peter and knowing that if he needed to do one more take, then that's what you gave him.
Yeah. When they asked you to do this part, to do the Bard, did you go through the Google and see what people were saying about him, or the fans said about you after the second one?
I use social media, so I would have seen.
Yeah.
I did see what people were saying, and it seemed to be all very positive.
Yeah,
I was happy, you know, that people liked it. I mean, it's difficult because, you know, this is a book that's been around since 1937.
Yeah.
In people's imaginations, they've visualized what Bard would look like, and there's lots of artists' impersonations of how interpretations of how Bard would look. So. It's interesting, you know. But everybody seemed to embrace him and me and like the way he comes across. So
everyone's happy.
That's
happy. A great part.
Yeah.
To finish this, when I saw the movie last night, there's like, yes, we got all the action, all the battles, but there is the underline. There's a love story from Bard for his kids and from people around. Do you think what people are going to take away when they see the movie? What's your take on that?
Well, I think that shows Peter's ability as a filmmaker. He doesn't just make a film, he tells a story. And the story only has an effect on an audience member if it's more than just action and visual and spectacle. There's a strong emotional core that drives the storyline from all these different characters. And like you said, Bard's story is driven solely from his want to protect his children. And everybody else has their strong storyline going on, and I think that's why it's such a beautiful film, that it really triggers your heartstrings. You know, you're not just watching it for the spectacle that is The Hobbit. You're watching it because there's a powerful emotional core.
Yeah, it crunches your heart when you're watching.
It certainly does.
It's a pleasure. You're a big media and social media guy. Let's do this selfie this time. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a bittersweet experience. It's sad in a way, you know, because it's a chapter of my life and a chapter of all our lives that have come to an end. But it's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful film. We're very proud of how Peter has encapsulated everybody's storylines, and you see closure to everybody's characters. And it's nice now that we get to travel the world and visit you guys here in Mexico and get to present this final chapter and say a fond farewell to Middle Earth for the final time. I love music. Music is a big part of my life. I've always sung ever since I was a kid, and I sang professionally on stage for 10 years. And it's always something that I feel very passionate about. And I only know one song, and Celito Lindo, is it? Yeah, that's the one I know. It was. I mean, I sort of took the role because I could see that it would be a challenging role. It was something it's a character that sort of moves so much through the journey. His journey is huge. I mean, he goes from being a lowly bargeman to slaying a giant dragon to becoming the leader of the human army and fighting orcs, which is not the sort of the life that I think Bard thought he was going to have. So, it was very fun indeed. Yes, I do, yeah. I mean, I did attempt to read Lord of the Rings. It's a very big book, and I've never really had enough time to get into it. But I read The Hobbit, and I love the way Tolkien writes, and it really did inspire, you know, Peter Jackson to create this incredible world. And so that was a wonderful thing. But if this film does anything, hopefully it'll inspire young people that haven't read the book to pick it up and read it. It's a beautiful book, and they can compare the stories and the images of what they create in their heads to the characters that Peter created on film, and yeah, it should be fun. I love them. They are one, and what's the word? They're just unique. I mean, they're completely consumed by the world of Middle Earth, and I love that. It's incredible. They know so much about the business, the storylines and the characters, and they dress up like the characters. You know, it's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of warmth and love and support from these fans around the world. Well, it's the final furlong. It's the final chapter of a huge journey from this little hobbit that leaves Bag End, or then travels, and we've seen what happens to him and the dwarves throughout the movie, and now you see them finally get their mountain back, but there's a huge battle that ensues, and it's huge. I mean, the film opens with the huge sequence on the rooftops with my character and the dragon Smaug, and it doesn't really stop. It really has this incredible, strong emotional intensity which carries it all the way through, it's very, very powerful stuff. Yeah, no, it really was. I mean, it was a year of my life. I was in New Zealand before, so that was quite intense in itself, but it was a beautiful place, and the people are really wonderful, and you're making something very special. You know that you're putting to film one of the most loved books ever written, and you're bringing to life a character that's never been brought to life on film before, and so it's a real gift and a real treat to work with people like Ian McKellen and Martin Freeman, Orlando, and Jimmy Nesbitt. The list is endless. Evangeline Lilly. We were all there having the best time, and we all have very good memories of the whole experience.
First of all, Peter Jackson is a director that works a lot in the details. When working on your character, when developing your character, did you have some kind of process similar?
Yeah, I mean, the first conversation I had was with Philippa Boyens. I was in London and she was in Portland, and we were speaking about the character, and I happened to just say, oh yeah, well he's obviously a widow. And she was like, he's not a widow. Bard's not a widow. Bard has a wife. And I was like, oh, I always thought, because I hadn't read the script at that point. I just read the synopsis, and I was like, I always thought that he was a widower with his child. And she was like, no, but I like the idea of that. And she went away, and they killed my wife off, and I gained one more child. So I was very much involved in the creation of Bard and how he ended up looking and acting and being on screen. So the attention is in the detail, and I felt like I was part of that detail, which is it.
And you're also a Welsh actor. Did you took some part of it for your character?
Yeah, I took the accent, which is a big deal. He's not just it's not just him that speaks with a Welsh accent, but it's also his children and ancestors of Dale. They all have a Welsh accent, which is an interesting thing. I didn't realize at the time when I said, oh yeah, I'll do a Welsh accent, that it would have such an impact on the storyline of the Hobbit film.
And you also been in some other movies with a lot of special effects, but Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, they go a little bit further. How was your experience in the special effect area?
You get used to it after a while. I mean, there are moments when you just have to really disappear inside your head and forget that there's just green screen everywhere, and there's people, holding sticks and shaking the cart that you are standing in. There's a lot of that, but you just get used to it after a while. And you have to really trust Peter's imagery that he shows you, or just your own imagination. It's a tool that actors have to use regularly on films now.
And how's the training, the archery, the combat training?
Amazing, yeah. I love all of that. It's really fun to play with bow and arrow and learn how to do it properly. And the sword fighting and the battle sequences, that's a lot of hard work and a lot of choreography and choreographic hours in a stunt hangar in Wellington.
And also filming in New Zealand, for you especially, how do you feel?
I had the best time. New Zealand is an amazing city, an amazing country, and Wellington's a great city, and the people are what make that country is what it is. They're very warm, embracing people, and it was my home for a year.
And also, there's the obvious question of how do you feel, how was the experience of working with Peter Jackson?
Fantastic. I know he's loved very much here in Mexico and Latin America, and I felt very lucky to be one of those actors that could actually work with him and get to have one-on-one time with him and really we enjoyed every minute of it. It was really fun. I hope I get to do it again one day.
And finally, tell us a little bit about the evolution of your character in this third film.
Well, he has an enormous arc of a journey. he starts as a lowly bargeman who ships in those dwarves, gets carried away with getting them back out of Lake Town. And then this dragon descends on Lake Town, and you watch this man who has to protect his children. Basically, that's what he's doing. He's protecting his family, and in secondary, he's protecting his people. And somehow, he ends up becoming the leader of this people, and then the leader of the human army. So it's an incredible trajectory that he goes on, and it was a really fun thing.